November 2002, Cascade Mountains. The rain hammers down on the windshield like it's trying to break through. Silas Sterling sits in his truck, engine idling, staring at the phone in his hand. A Motorola StarTAC, flip phone, blue screen glowing in the darkness. He keeps it on, always on, charged every night before bed. A ritual he's followed for 2 years, ever since the night Martha died. She'd been working late at the logging mill when the chest pain started. Tried to call him, couldn't reach him. His phone was dead, sitting on the kitchen counter, forgotten. By the time someone found her and drove to the farm to tell him, it was too late. So now the phone stays on, always within reach, always charged. A promise made to a woman who can't hear promises anymore. Tonight, that phone is the only light in the cab. The rain outside is biblical. The kind of storm that turns logging roads into rivers, that makes the mountains feel like they're closing in. Silas doesn't notice the rain. He's staring at the phone because earlier today, someone stole his truck. Not this truck, the other one. The 1998 Ford F-250 that carried Martha to the hospital. The truck that got her there too late, but got her there. The truck that's been his livelihood, his independence, his last connection to the life they built together. Victor Vane's crew took it. Silas knows this the way you know things in small mountain communities. Word travels, people talk. And when your truck disappears from your driveway in the middle of the night, you don't need a detective to tell you who's responsible. Victor runs a crew of 11 men, former loggers, most of them. Men the timber crash left behind when the mills closed and the work dried up. They steal equipment, move stolen goods, operate in the gaps where law enforcement doesn't reach. Silas reported the theft, filed the paperwork, talked to a deputy who took notes and promised to look into it. Both men knew nothing would come of it. So Silas sits in his truck, the borrowed one, the one Earl Hutchins lent him this morning when he explained his situation. And he stares at the blue glow of his phone. He's thinking about Martha, about the night he couldn't reach her, about how that phone was supposed to keep him connected to the people he loved. He doesn't know what the phone is really doing. Every 7 to 15 minutes, even when he's not making calls, that Motorola is reaching out, searching for the nearest cell tower, shaking hands with the infrastructure that's spreading across these mountains like invisible roots. Each handshake creates a record, a timestamp, a location. Silas thinks silence is his weapon. He's spent his whole life in these mountains, learning how to move without breaking a twig, how to track deer through terrain that would lose city hunters in minutes. He doesn't know his phone is a flare gun. In 9 days, 12 men will die. The Sterlings will move through the Cascades like ghosts, eliminating Victor Vane's crew one by one. They'll dispose of bodies in places the mountains will keep secret for years. They'll leave no witnesses, no physical evidence, no trail that human eyes can follow. But the radio waves will tell the truth. Every kill, Silas's phone will be there, pinging towers, creating a constellation of data points that maps his movements with precision he can't imagine. The old logger, who can walk on dry leaves without a sound, will be caught by frequencies he can't hear. Right now, sitting in the rain, Silas Sterling doesn't know any of this. He just knows his truck is gone. His sons are waiting for him at the house, and the decision he's about to make will change everything. The blue glow reflects off his face. Listen, if you'd been alive in 2002, you'd know this sound, that distinctive buzz. Da-da-dit, da-da-dit. The interference pattern that GSM phones created in nearby speakers, right before a call came through, right before a text arrived, right before the phone shook hands with a tower. It's the sound of a handshake happening. The sound of a phone reaching out to infrastructure you can't see. Silas doesn't hear it, The phone is in his pocket. The speakers are in his house. But it's happening right now as he sits in the rain making his decision. Dot-a-dit, dot-a-dit. The tower's receiving, recording, building the first data point in a constellation of evidence. The blue glow reflects off his face. The rain keeps falling. And somewhere in the darkness, a cell tower receives a signal from a phone that's always on. The mountains will keep their bodies, but the towers will keep the truth. In 9 days, Silas Sterling will learn that invisibility requires more than silence. Skagit County, Washington, in November 2002, exists in 2 worlds at once. Silas Sterling knows one of them intimately. The North Cascades, valleys carved by glaciers, rivers running cold toward Puget Sound, forests so dense that sunlight only reaches the ground in scattered patches. He can navigate these mountains in complete darkness using nothing but memory and instinct. But there's another world, invisible, digital, being built in real time as he sits in that truck. Right now, his phone is reaching out. Dot-a-dit, dot-a-dit. If there were speakers nearby, they buzz with that distinctive interference. The sound GSM phones made when shaking hands with towers. The sound most people heard, but never thought about. Every 7 to 15 minutes, Silas's phone and the nearest tower exchange information. Device ID, tower location, timestamp. This phone contacted this tower at this exact time. One handshake means nothing. But over 9 days, Silas's phone will create 1,847 handshakes. 1,847 breadcrumbs. 1,847 pieces of evidence that will map every kill, every disposal, every moment he thought he was invisible. The towers work on triangulation. 1 tower places you within miles. 3 towers within a few hundred feet. Skagit County has 17 cell towers in November 2002. Not hundreds, not thousands. 17, which means every ping is significant. Silas Sterling's phone stands out like a beacon in sparse coverage. He knows how to walk on dry leaves without making a sound. But he doesn't know his phone is screaming his location to anyone who knows how to listen. But here's what Silas doesn't know yet. In 6 months, a detective named Sarah Reeves will pull his phone records. She'll map every ping, every tower, every handshake. And she'll build a case so airtight that his own lawyer will tell him to plead guilty. The Constellation is already forming. Silas just can't see it yet. But you will. Right now, November 8th, 2002, his sons are waiting inside. And the decision he's about to make will set everything in motion. Silas Sterling, at 58, is weathered. 6'2", scarred hands from decades of chainsaws, hair gone white, moves with the careful economy of age. But there's something the years haven't touched. Certainty. A belief in codes that don't get written down. You keep your word, you pay your debts. When someone takes from you, you don't wait for systems that won't deliver justice. Codes learned from his father, going back through generations of Sterling men who worked this land since the 1880s. The land, 180 acres, has been in the family for over a century. Not valuable, too remote, but it's Sterling land. Martha died 2 years ago. Heart attack. She'd called when the pain started. Silas didn't answer. His phone was dead. By the time he reached the hospital, she was gone. The doctors said nothing would have changed the outcome. Silas doesn't believe that. Now the phone stays on. Always charged. The Martha vow. His sons, Caleb, Elias, Bram, understand. They've watched grief calcify into ritual. What none of them understand is what that phone is doing. Right now, sitting in Earl's truck outside his house, Silas's Motorola pings a tower near concrete. The signal travels invisibly through rain and darkness. The tower responds. The handshake is logged. Silas feels the slight weight of the phone in his jacket pocket, the warmth of the battery against his chest. He thinks it's keeping him connected to Martha's memory. He doesn't know it's about to destroy his family. The sons are waiting inside. Caleb's truck is in the driveway. Elias's motorcycle is parked under the carport. Bram drove up from his trailer an hour ago. They've heard about the stolen truck. They're waiting for their father to tell them what comes next. Silas takes a breath, opens the door, steps out into the rain. The phone stays in his pocket, always on, always listening. The Sterlings are about to become the most documented murderers in Washington state history. Victor Vane, at 42, looks like what he is. A man who learned how to organize violence in the desert and brought those skills home to the mountains. Gulf War veteran, 1st Infantry Division, deployed to Kuwait in January 1991. Spent 6 months moving supplies through a war zone where the primary challenge wasn't combat, but logistics. How do you feed 50,000 soldiers in a place with no infrastructure? How do you move ammunition and fuel and water across terrain that destroys vehicles? How do you track inventory when everything is covered in sand and chaos? Victor learned good enough that the Army wanted him to re-enlist, offered him rank and bonuses, and a career path that led somewhere other than rural Washington. He came home anyway. 1992. Discharged honorably. Returned to Skagit County with skills that had no civilian application, and a belief that the timber industry would recover the way everyone kept saying it would. It didn't recover. The Darrington Mill closed in 1998. 200 jobs gone overnight. Victor had been working there for 6 years, running logistics for timber distribution, applying his military training to an industry that was already dying. When the mill closed, he had a choice. Leave the mountains like everyone else was leaving. Chase work in Seattle or Portland or somewhere that still had an economy. Or stay and figure out how to survive in a place that had stopped providing legitimate ways to survive. He stayed. The crew he built wasn't a gang, not in the traditional sense. No colors, no territory, no hierarchy that would make them recognizable to law enforcement. Just 11 men, former loggers mostly, mill workers who'd lost their jobs when the industry collapsed, men who'd grown up in these mountains and refused to leave even when leaving was the only rational choice. They stole equipment, trucks, tractors, chainsaws, anything that could be moved and sold. Victor handled the logistics. He knew how to identify targets, plan operations, move stolen goods through networks that stretched from Bellingham to Seattle. He understood supply chains, knew that stolen equipment needed buyers, that buyers needed reliability. That reliability required discipline and operational security. Victor's military background gave him advantages local criminals didn't have. He understood operational security, knew how to compartmentalize information so no single crew member could compromise the entire operation. Planned jobs with attention to detail that made them almost impossible to trace. But Victor had a blind spot. He understood physical security, knew how to avoid witnesses, how to disable alarms, how to move through rural areas where police response times were measured in hours, not minutes. What he didn't understand was the digital infrastructure being built around him. Cell towers going up on ridges, networks logging every phone's location, technology creating visibility in places that had always been invisible. When his crew stole Silas Sterling's truck on November 8, 2002, it wasn't personal. It was strategic. The F-250 was a high-value target. Good condition, despite its age. Easy to move. Buyers in Knoxville would pay cash and ask no questions. Victor didn't know who Silas Sterling was. Didn't know about Martha. About the grief that turned a phone into a ritual. About the code that governed men who'd spent their lives in these mountains. He just knew the truck was there. Isolated property. Minimal security. Owner old enough that physical confrontation seemed unlikely. It was a clean job. In and out in under 5 minutes. The truck was in Knoxville by dawn, already being stripped for parts. Victor thought he was running a professional operation. Thought his military training made him untouchable. He didn't realize he'd stolen from a man who had nothing left to lose. And he didn't know the mountains were about to teach him a lesson the desert never had. That some debts get collected regardless of the cost. Victor Vane has stolen 47 vehicles in 4 years. Silas Sterling's F-250 will be number 48. It will also be the last. Because in 3 days, Victor and Silas will meet face to face at a ranger station neither of them planned to be at. 4 of Victor's men will die in that encounter. But more importantly, it's where the Sterlings will make their first mistake. The mistake that turns a perfect operation into a prosecutable case. Right now, neither man knows they're on a collision course. But the towers are already tracking both of them. And in 72 hours, everything changes. November 8th, the theft, 3:47 a.m. Victor Vane crosses the county line. The stolen F-250 rides smooth. The engine purrs. In 6 hours, this truck will be on a flatbed headed to Knoxville. In a week, it'll be scattered across 3 states in parts. Clean job, professional execution. Number 48 in 4 years. Victor's military training has served him well. Gulf War logistics officer. The man who could move supplies through a war zone without losing a crate. Now he moves stolen trucks through the Cascades without leaving a trace. 5:15 a.m. Silas Sterling wakes. No alarm. Just the internal clock that 40 years of farming installed in him. The bedroom is cold. The wood stove burned down overnight. He lies still for a moment, listening to the silence where Martha's breathing should be. Then rises, because lying in bed won't feed the cattle or check the fences or accomplish any of the tasks that give his day's structure. 5:22 a.m. Victor delivers the truck. Marcus Holt is waiting at the transfer point, a rest stop off Highway 20. Deserted at this hour. Any problems? Clean, Victor says. Old man never woke up. Marcus grins. Knoxville's gonna love this one. They swap vehicles. Victor takes Marcus's Honda. The F-250 disappears onto the flatbed. 5:47 a.m. Silas looks out the kitchen window. The space where his truck should be is empty. For a moment, his mind refuses to process what his eyes are seeing. The truck is always there. Has been there every morning for 4 years. He stands at the window, coffee forgotten, staring at the empty space. 6:15 a.m. Victor returns to his trailer outside Deer Lodge. He's already moving the money. $8,000 split between his crew. Tommy gets 2, Marcus gets 2. The rest goes into the fund that keeps families afloat when work runs dry. This is what separates Victor's operation from common theft. It's not greed, it's survival. A safety net for men the system abandoned. He sleeps easy, has never lost sleep over any of the 48 trucks. This one won't be different. 6:47 a.m. Silas stands in his driveway. The tire tracks are fresh, made after midnight, when the ground was still soft from rain. Someone drove it out slowly, carefully. No spinning tires, no sudden acceleration. Professional work. He knows immediately who did this. Victor Vane's crew, operating in the gaps where law enforcement doesn't reach. Silas walks back to the house, makes coffee, sits at the kitchen table. The phone in his pocket vibrates. A text from Caleb. Heard about the truck. Coming over. What Victor doesn't know, the old man he stole from isn't calling the police, isn't filing insurance claims, isn't accepting the loss the way the system expects him to. The old man is planning something else. Something that will end with 12 men dead and Victor Vane bleeding out on a highway 3 miles from the Canadian border. But right now, both men are just starting their day. One thinking he's gotten away clean. The other deciding how to make sure no one ever takes from him again. The mountains are watching. The towers are listening. And in 9 days, only one of them will still be breathing. 8 a.m. The Sterling sons arrive. They stand in the driveway, looking at the empty space, the tire tracks, the evidence of what everyone already knows happened. "We call the sheriff?" Elias asks. Silas shakes his head. "Already did. Deputies coming this afternoon." "And then what?" "Then nothing. You know how this works." Bram kicks at the mud. "So we just let them take it?" "No," Silas says finally. "We don't let them take it." 2 p.m. Deputy Thompson arrives, takes notes, asks questions, walks around the property. "Any idea who might have done this, Mr. Sterling?" "The Vane crew. They've been causing trouble for years." Thompson nods, writes it down, promises to look into it. He doesn't seem optimistic. 4:30 p.m. Earl Hutchins hands over his truck. "Heard about yours," Earl says. "Take this, as long as you need." A 1998 Ford F-150. Keys passed between neighbors who understand debts that don't get spoken. 7 p.m. The planning begins. 4 Sterling men. 1 map of Skagit County. 12 names circled in pencil. "Victor Vane runs the crew," Silas says. Caleb studies the map. "You're talking about more than getting the truck back. The truck's already gone. This is about making sure they never come back." The phone in Silas's pocket stays on. Always on. Pinging towers. Creating records. Building the case that will eventually destroy them all. The Sterlings are preparing for a war fought with rifles and silence. They don't know they're already losing a war fought with frequencies and timestamps. November 10th. The first kill. Marcus Holt. The planning is complete. 3 days of reconnaissance. 3 days of watching, mapping, confirming. The Sterlings move at 10:47 p.m. on November 10th. The target is Marcus Holt, Victor Vane's logistics coordinator. The man who sold Silas's truck to a chop shop in Seattle. Marcus lives alone in a cabin near concrete. Isolated. No neighbors within a mile. Caleb and Elias approach through the woods. Bram covers the back. Silas waits in Earl's truck, a quarter-mile away. At 10:47 p.m., Silas's phone pings a tower near concrete. The signal travels invisibly. The tower responds. The handshake is logged. Silas doesn't notice. He's watching the cabin's windows. The phone in his pocket is telling a story he can't hear. Caleb kicks in the front door. Marcus is on his couch, drunk, television playing. He tries to stand when the door crashes open. Too slow. Elias comes through the window. Marcus turns toward the sound, exposing himself to both angles. The shot is clinical. No hesitation. No emotion. This is timber work. Cutting down something that needs to come down. Marcus drops. The television keeps playing. Canned laughter in the sudden silence. Silas's phone pings again. 10:47 p.m. Somewhere, a computer logs the contact. This phone, this tower, this timestamp. One breadcrumb in a trail he doesn't know he's leaving. They move quickly, wrap the body, load it into Earl's truck. Drive to an abandoned mine shaft Silas identified during planning. The body goes into the darkness. They hear it hit bottom. Then silence. Silas's phone pings again. 11:34 p.m. A different tower, closer to the mine shaft. The Sterlings drive back to Silas's property. Clean the truck bed. Burn the tarps. Shower away the residue. By 2 a.m., they're sitting in Silas's kitchen, drinking coffee, not talking. 1 down, 11 to go. Marcus Holt is dead. The Sterlings think they got away clean. No witnesses, no evidence. Perfect execution. But they left something behind that they don't even know exists. Not the shell casings, not the tire tracks. Something invisible. Silas's phone pinged 4 towers during the disposal. Each ping created a breadcrumb. And breadcrumbs, when you string enough of them together, create a map. A map that leads straight to prison. But that won't become clear for 6 more months. Right now, the Sterlings are just getting started. 11 targets remain, and each one will add another data point to a constellation they can't see. The towers are building their case. November 11th, the methodical phase. The Sterlings run 2 more operations, same night. Tommy Briggs, 9:15 p.m., forced into a ditch, chased through woods, caught in streambed, body into ravine. Silas's phone pings a tower near Darrington. Then the Hensley brothers, fishing cabin, 11:32 p.m., 2 targets, simultaneous shots required. Caleb takes Wayne, Bram takes Curtis. Both shots, same instant, both down. Bodies into the river, weighted. The current takes them. By 2 a.m., 4 men are dead. The Sterlings sit in silence, not talking. Elias's hands shake. Caleb stares at nothing. Bram moves too carefully. Silas is already planning the next targets. 4 down, 8 to go. What they don't know, Victor Vane is standing in his trailer 8 miles away, surrounded by maps, making phone calls to crew members who aren't answering. Marcus is gone. Tommy is gone. The Hensleys aren't responding. 7 men missing in 36 hours. Victor fought in Desert Storm. He knows what it looks like when an enemy has superior intelligence, when you're being hunted by someone who knows where you live. He calls an emergency meeting. 4 crew members show, out of 11. We're being targeted, he tells them. From now on, nobody moves alone. We stay armed, we stay alert, and we figure out who's doing this. The prey is learning to defend itself, and when both predator and prey start hunting each other, mistakes happen. The kind of mistakes that turn surgical operations into firefights. The kind that happen at ranger stations in 3 days. But tonight, the Sterlings don't know Victor is mobilizing. They just know they're halfway done. 4 down, 8 to go. 4 men dead in 2 days. The Sterlings are operating like a machine. Efficient, precise, unstoppable. But machines break down. And in less than 12 hours, at a ranger station the Sterlings have been watching for 2 days, something unexpected will happen. Victor Vane will be there, with 4 armed men, waiting. Not because he knows the Sterlings are coming, but because both sides chose the same location for different reasons. The hunter is about to meet the hunted. And when that happens, someone always makes a mistake. The kind of mistake that leaves physical evidence. The kind investigators can't ignore. The Sterlings have been invisible. That's about to change. Victor Vane started with 11 men. Now he has 7. 4 disappeared in 36 hours. Every time his phone rings, he expects bad news. Every missed call is another crew member who won't answer. The numbers are dwindling, and Victor knows when you're being hunted systematically, the last man standing is the most vulnerable, because he's the only target left. Right now, Victor Vane is running calculations. How many men can he afford to lose before the crew collapses? How long before he's the only one left? The answer? 3 days. In 3 days, Victor will be alone. November 12th. Pre-dawn. Victor's digital trap. Victor Vane hasn't slept in 36 hours. 4 men gone. Marcus, Tommy, the Hensley brothers. All disappeared within 48 hours. No bodies, no witnesses, no evidence except empty houses and vehicles left behind, like shed skins. He sits in his trailer outside Deer Lodge, surrounded by maps and notes and the kind of tactical planning he hasn't done since Kuwait. His military training is screaming at him. This is an operation, coordinated, disciplined. Someone with intelligence capabilities he doesn't have. The question is who? He runs through possibilities. Rival crews from Seattle? Unlikely. They don't operate this far north. Local law enforcement? Impossible. They don't have the resources or the motivation. Then he remembers the truck. Silas Sterling's F-250. Taken 8 days ago. A routine job. Easy target. Nothing that should have generated this kind of response. But what if it did? Victor opens his laptop. A Dell that's seen better days. Connects to the internet through a dial-up connection that screams and hisses before establishing a link. He navigates to a local logging industry forum. One of those early 2000s message boards where timber workers share information about jobs and equipment and grievances. The Sterlings might monitor it. Old loggers sometimes do. Looking for work, looking for equipment, looking for information. Victor types a post. Information about the Sterling family available. Serious inquiries only. Meet at Ranger Station 7, November 12th, dawn. It's bait. Obvious bait. But if the Sterlings are hunting his crew, they might take it. Might see it as an opportunity to gather intelligence. He calls the 3 remaining crew members he can reach. Tells them to arm up and meet him at the Ranger Station. 4 men. Good defensive position. Clear sight lines. If the Sterlings show up, they'll be walking into a kill box. Victor sets his alarm for 4 a.m. Lies down on the couch. Closes his eyes. Sleep doesn't come. Just the weight of knowing that he's lost 4 men in 2 days, and the people responsible are still out there, still hunting. At 4:15 a.m., Victor and his 3 remaining crew members arrive at Ranger Station 7. It's an abandoned Forest Service building. Hasn't been used in years. Windows boarded up. Parking lot cracked and overgrown. But it has good bones. Stone walls. Limited access points. High ground with visibility in all directions. They position themselves. 1 man on the roof. 2 covering the approaches. Victor inside with a clear view of the parking lot. The sun rises slowly. Gray light filtering through clouds. Rain starting again. They wait. Hours pass. By 9 a.m., Victor realizes the truth. The Sterlings never saw his post. They're not monitoring forums. They're not gathering intelligence through digital channels. They're tracking physical movements, using old skills, the kind of hunting knowledge that comes from lifetimes in these mountains. His trap was perfect, but he set it for predators who hunt a different way. Victor calls off the operation, tells his men to go home, stay alert, stay armed. He doesn't know it yet, but the Sterlings are already coming. Not because of his forum post, not because they saw his bait, because they've been tracking one of his crew members through physical surveillance, following him, watching his patterns, waiting for the right moment. The collision at the Ranger Station will happen anyway, just not the way Victor planned it. Both sides present, neither expecting the other. A perfect accident that will turn a surgical operation into a firefight. November 12th, the Ranger Station standoff. The Sterlings arrive at the Ranger Station at dawn. They're tracking Derek Finn, one of Vane's mechanics, the one who drove Silas's truck to Knoxville. Caleb followed him here yesterday, watched him meet someone, marked it as a target location. They think they're hunting 1 man. They're walking into 4. Silas parks Earl's truck a quarter mile down the access road. His phone pings a tower near the Ranger Station. 5:47 a.m. The signal logged in databases that won't be checked for months. Caleb and Bram approach through the woods. Elias circles north. Standard hunting formation. At 6:02 a.m., a Vane lookout on the roof spots movement. The angle is wrong. The light is bad. But the shape is human and approaching. He fires. The firefight erupts without warning. The lookout's shot misses Caleb by inches. Caleb returns fire. The lookout goes down. 2 more Vane crew members emerge from the Ranger Station, taking defensive positions behind stone walls. Elias comes in from the north. The angle nobody was watching. He takes out 1 crew member clean. But return fire from the roof catches his shoulder. Not fatal, but bad enough. He goes down hard, blood soaking through his jacket. Bram sees his brother fall. The careful discipline they've maintained for 4 days shatters. He charges across open ground, firing as he moves. Not tactical, just rage and fear and the primal need to protect family. The firefight lasts less than 5 minutes. When it ends, 3 Vane crew members are dead. Victor escaped through a back exit during the chaos, disappeared into the woods using the survival instincts that kept him alive in Kuwait. The Sterlings regroup. Elias is wounded but mobile. They load him into Earl's truck and drive. The evidence left behind is catastrophic. Shell casings everywhere, blood trails, tire tracks. The first physical proof that the Sterlings exist. Silas's phone pings multiple towers during the firefight, creating a movement map that investigators will later reconstruct with chilling accuracy. Back at the property, they spend hours cleaning, burning clothes, wiping down weapons, collecting every shell casing they can find. They're meticulous, understanding that physical evidence is what solves cases. What they don't understand is that the phones in their pockets are creating evidence that can't be burned or buried. November 13th, the psychological crack. The breaking point comes 36 hours after the ranger station. Elias Sterling sits on the couch in his father's living room, cradling his wounded shoulder. The bullet went through clean. No bone damage. No arterial bleeding. Just muscle and tissue torn apart in ways that throb with every heartbeat. Bram cleaned the wound, packed it with gauze, wrapped it tight. The kind of field medicine you learn when hospitals are too far away and questions are too dangerous. The wound is infected now. 2 days later, the edges red and hot. Fever breaking through Elias's skin in waves that leave him shaking. He hasn't slept. Can't sleep. Every time he closes his eyes, he sees the lookout on the roof, sees the muzzle flash, feels the impact of the bullet that should have killed him, but didn't. He's drinking. Has been drinking since they got back from the ranger station. Whiskey straight from the bottle. The alcohol doing nothing for the pain, but everything for the noise in his head. The family gathers at Silas's property to regroup. The farmhouse kitchen that's been the center of Sterling planning for 5 generations. The place where decisions get made. Caleb notices first. The way Elias won't make eye contact. The way his hands shake when he's not holding the bottle. The hollow look that comes from crossing lines you can't uncross. You could? Elias doesn't answer. Just takes another drink. Bram breaks the silence. His voice careful, testing. We got the truck back. Marcus is dead. That's justice. Why are we still doing this? The question hangs in the air. Silas sits at the head of the table. The same chair his father sat in. And his father before him. The weight of generations pressing down. Because we finish what we started. Pop, Bram leans forward. We killed 4 men. Victor's crew is scattered. They're not coming back. We made our point. The point isn't made until all of them are gone. Elias explodes. The bottle slams down on the table, whiskey sloshing. His face twisted with something that might be rage, or might be grief, or might be the realization of what they've become. We're not loggers anymore, Pop. We're executioners. The word lands like a physical blow. This is the moment. The pivot point, where efficiency becomes obsession. Elias with an infected shoulder and hands that won't stop shaking. Bram moving too carefully, afraid that if he moves normally, he'll break something fundamental inside himself. Caleb staring at nothing, his eyes focused on ghosts only he can see. And Silas, sitting at that table, demanding they finish what they started. 4 men dead, 8 to go. Silas's face doesn't change. Just that flat certainty that's carried him through 58 years of survival. In mountains that kill the unprepared. We're men who protect what's ours. By killing 12 people? By making sure nobody ever takes from us again. Caleb watches the family fracturing in real time. They step onto the porch. Rain falling steady. Caleb lights a cigarette. Offers one to Elias. You want out? Elias stares at the empty driveway. I want to go back to before. Can't go back. I know. Inside, Silas and Bram are already looking at maps, planning the next targets. Elias walks back inside, his shoulder throbbing, his fever climbing. He doesn't say anything, doesn't argue, doesn't walk away. His presence means agreement, means they'll finish this together, even though finishing might destroy them all. The infected wound pulses. The fever breaks through his skin, but he says nothing. Bram sees it, sees the red edges, sees the swelling, says nothing. They're past the point where wounds matter, past the point where physical damage registers as something worth addressing. They're in the momentum now, the terrible forward motion of men who've committed to a path and can't see any exit except the end. And in less than 12 hours, that phone, the one Silas has kept on for 2 years as a promise to Martha, is about to ring, for the first time since she died. At 2:34 in the morning. The call that will place him at a burial site, at the exact moment a body was being disposed of. The towers have been listening, but something else has been listening too. November 14th, the point of no return. That afternoon, something strange happens. Bram is at a gas station in Concrete, filling up Earl's truck. The attendant, a kid, maybe 19, looks at him funny. You law enforcement? Bram freezes. What? Just asking. We had a detective in here yesterday, asking about trucks, said he was tracking someone through cell tower pings. Never heard of that before. Bram's blood goes cold. What detective? The kid shrugs. Didn't get his name, just thought it was weird, tracking people with their phones. Bram pays, drives away, his hands shaking on the wheel. He doesn't tell his father, doesn't tell his brothers, because if he tells them, they might stop, and stopping means confronting what they've already done. So he says nothing. And the Sterlings keep their phones on. The Sterlings have 5 days of freedom left, and they're going to spend those 5 days killing 3 more men. The Martha call. The phone rings. Let me catch you up on where we are. 7 men dead, 5 left to kill. And Silas Sterling, the man who started this because someone stole his truck, is sitting on his porch at 2:34 a.m. when his phone rings for the first time in 2 years. November 15th, 2:34 a.m. Silas Sterling is sitting on his porch, the November cold biting through his jacket. The kind of cold that makes bones ache. He can't sleep. Hasn't slept properly since November 10th. Just fragments, 30 minutes here, an hour there. Then awake again with images he can't unsee. The phone in his pocket vibrates. The sensation is so unexpected that for a moment he doesn't process it. The phone hasn't rung since Martha died. 2 years of silence. 2 years of keeping it charged and on and waiting for a call that would never come. He pulls it out. The blue glow harsh in the darkness. The screen showing an incoming call from a number he doesn't recognize. His hand shakes. Actually shakes. The first time his hands have betrayed him since this started. He answers. Hey, wait, who is this? Wrong number. Silas sits there, phone pressed to his ear, listening to a stranger realize his mistake. Sorry, man. Wrong number. Thought you were. Doesn't matter. Have a good night. The call ends. 11 seconds. That's how long it lasted. 11 seconds of a drunk stranger in Bellingham dialing the wrong number at 2:34 in the morning. Silas stares at the phone, the screen fading back to darkness, the blue glow disappearing. He's kept this phone on because Martha might call. Because in the irrational mathematics of grief, keeping the phone charged meant keeping the connection alive. Meant she could reach him if she needed him. Meant the night she died wasn't the last time they'd communicate. The wrong number shatters something. She's not calling. She's never calling. The phone isn't a connection to Martha. It's just a device. Silicon and circuits and radio waves that have nothing to do with love or loss, or the vow he made the night she died. He sits on the porch, the phone in his hand, the weight of 2 years pressing down. Inside the house, his sons are sleeping. Caleb in the guest room, Bram on the couch, Elias in his childhood bedroom, fever dreaming through infected wounds. 3 men who followed him into murder because he couldn't let go of a truck, because he couldn't accept that some things get taken and you have to live with the loss. The phone vibrates again. Not a call this time, just a notification. Low battery. He plugs it into the charger he keeps on the porch, watches the screen light up, the battery icon filling slowly. The ritual continues. Even now, even after the wrong number proved what he already knew, Martha isn't coming back. The phone can't change that. Keeping it charged doesn't honor her memory. It just creates a digital trail that's mapping every step of his destruction. But he can't stop. The vow is all he has left, the one thing he's maintained while everything else has collapsed. His family fracturing, his sons becoming killers, his own hands stained with blood that won't wash off. The phone charges. The blue glows steady in the darkness. Somewhere in a network operations center, the incoming call is logged. The timestamp recorded. The tower location noted. November 15th, 2:34 a.m. Silas Sterling's phone received a call while positioned near his property. The call lasted 11 seconds. Originated from Bellingham. The data point adds to the Constellation. One more piece of evidence that investigators will use to map his movements, to prove he was where the bodies were found, to connect him to crimes he thought he'd committed in silence. The call lasted 11 seconds. It would take investigators 11 days to find it in the records. But when they did, it would place Silas at the exact coordinates of a burial site, would prove his phone was active during the disposal window, would corroborate the tower pings that mapped his route from the ranger station to the mineshaft where Marcus Holt's remains would eventually be discovered. A drunk stranger in Bellingham dialing the wrong number at 2:34 a.m. just gave prosecutors the final piece of their timeline. Silas doesn't know this, can't know it, doesn't understand that the phone in his hand is a witness that never sleeps and never forgets. He just knows Martha isn't calling, and the weight of that knowledge sits heavier than anything else he's carrying. Silas doesn't know that 11 seconds just placed him at a burial site, doesn't know the incoming call was logged, timestamped, mapped, doesn't know those 11 seconds will destroy his alibi. 11 men dead, 1 target remains. Victor Vane, the man who started this by stealing a truck 9 days ago. The man who's been running since his crew started disappearing. Right now, he's packing a bag, loading a gun, planning his escape to Canada. He thinks if he can make it across the border, he'll be safe. He's 3 miles away from freedom when the Sterlings catch him. 3 miles. 84 hours from now, Victor Vane will be dead on Highway 9. His hands still on the gear shift, still trying to reverse, still trying to run. And Silas Sterling's phone will ping one final tower, the last data point in a constellation that maps 12 murders. But first, the Sterlings have to break completely. They have to cross one more line, the line between revenge and something darker. And that happens in the next 48 hours. The Forensic Break. Detective Sarah Reeves, 26, Digital Forensic Specialist. November 25th, a hunter finds Marcus Holt near an abandoned mineshaft in Whatcom County. More bodies surface over the next week. 12 men missing, 5 bodies found. Reeves thinks in terms of data. She requests cell tower records for Skagit and Whatcom counties, November 8th through November 17th. The request is novel. Phone companies hesitate. She gets a warrant. The records arrive December 2nd. Thousands of pages. Raw data from 3 carriers. She finds the pattern December 5th. One phone number, registered to Silas Sterling, appears near every location where bodies were found. November 10th, 10:47 p.m., tower near concrete, Marcus Holt's disposal site. November 11th, 9:15 p.m., tower near Darrington, Tommy Briggs's location. November 11th, 11:32 p.m., tower near Skagit River. The Hensley brothers. One phone, 12 crime scenes. Perfect correlation. Reeves polls Silas's subscriber information. Cross-references with local law enforcement. Finds the stolen truck report from November 8th. Motive, timeline, evidence. The phone's movement pattern proves intent. Point A to point B in timeframes matching driving routes. Lingering at disposal sites. Returning to the Sterling property between kills. A hub-and-spoke pattern no innocent explanation can account for. Arrest warrants issued December 23rd. Silas Sterling built his life on being unreachable. His phone made him the most visible suspect in Washington state. The arrest. November 25th dawn. 4 teams, 4 locations. Detective Sarah Reeves coordinates with the Skagit County Sheriff's Department. Simultaneous arrests across the county. Team 1, Silas at his farmhouse. Team 2, Caleb at his trailer. Team 3, Elias at his property. Team 4, Bram in concrete. 20 officers surround Silas Sterling's property at 5:47 a.m. The door opens before they knock. Silas Sterling stands in the doorway, dressed, awake, a cup of coffee in his hand, like he's been expecting this moment since November 10th. "Morning, officers." His voice is calm, steady, the flat certainty of a man who's known how this ends since the beginning. "Silas Sterling, you're under arrest for 12 counts of first-degree murder." He sets down his coffee, turns around, hands behind his back. The cuffs go on without resistance. Caleb surrenders the same way. Opens his door, holds out his wrists. Elias is sitting on his porch, finishes his cigarette before standing. Bram wakes to rifles and shouting. Doesn't resist, just lies still. By 7:15 a.m., all 4 Sterling men are in custody, transported to separate facilities. The family unit that held together through 9 days of killing, finally broken. Silas's phone is bagged as evidence. The Motorola StarTAC that's been on and charged for 2 years. The device that mapped every movement, every kill, every disposal. The phone was supposed to keep him connected to Martha. Instead, it connected him to the law. The trial, the Constellation revealed. April 4th, 2003. The courtroom goes dark. District Attorney Robert Clayton holds up a clear evidence bag. Inside, Silas Sterling's Motorola StarTAC. This phone witnessed 12 murders, Clayton says, and unlike human witnesses, it couldn't be intimidated, couldn't forget, couldn't lie. He clicks the remote. The Constellation appears. Blue dots, red lines, 12 murders mapped in timestamps and tower pings. The defendant kept this phone on to honor his dead wife, to stay connected to her memory. And in doing so, he created the most reliable witness in Washington state history. The jury files out at 2:47 p.m. They return at 5:52 p.m. 3 hours and 5 minutes. On all counts of first-degree murder. How do you find? Guilty. 12 times. 12 guilty verdicts. Silas Sterling doesn't react. Just sits there, hands folded. Caleb closes his eyes. Elias cries silently. Bram stares at nothing. The sentencing judge Patterson doesn't wait. Silas Sterling, life in prison. Parole eligibility after 25 years. 58 years old. He'll be 83 before he can even apply for freedom. Caleb, Elias, and Bram Sterling, 40 years to life, minimum 20 years. Their lives effectively over. The bailiffs move to transport them. Silas stands, turns to his sons. For the first time since this started, his face breaks. I'm sorry. 2 words. Inadequate, For everything. Caleb looks at him. Something cold in his eyes. Something that might have been love once. You kept your phone on for Martha, Caleb says quietly. He pauses. You should have turned it off for us. The words land like a bullet. Silas opens his mouth, closes it. There's nothing to say. The bailiffs lead them out. 4 men in orange jumpsuits, separated, broken. The family that killed together, destroyed by the consequences. In the gallery, Detective Sarah Reeves watches them go. This case made her career. But right now, she just feels tired. The courtroom empties. The projection turns off. The Constellation disappears. But the phone remains. In an evidence bag, in an archive, in a database that will never be destroyed. The towers recorded everything. The jury believed the towers. And the Sterlings will spend the rest of their lives paying for a phone that was always on. Martha Sterling died in 2000 because a phone wasn't charged. Her husband will die in prison because his never stopped being charged. The irony is complete. And somewhere in the mountains, 7 bodies are still waiting to be found. The aftermath. April 4th, 2003. Life sentences. Silas Sterling, life in prison. Parole eligibility after 25 years. Caleb, Elias, and Bram Sterling, 40 years to life. Minimum 20 years. 4 facilities, 4 separate lives. The family unit that held together through 9 days of killing, finally broken by distance and concrete and time. They're not allowed contact. No calls, no letters, no visits between them. The state decided that keeping the Sterlings together was too dangerous, so they separated them, and now each man serves his sentence alone. The mountains give back. Over the next 2 decades, the mountains slowly return what they took. May 2004. A hiker finds Marcus Holt near an abandoned mineshaft in Whatcom County. Decomposition advanced. Wildlife has been at the remains, but enough left for DNA confirmation. The first body, the one that started it all. March 2006. Spring runoff exposes Tommy Briggs in a logging ravine near Darrington. A ranger doing trail maintenance sees bones scattered across 50 yards. Dental records confirm identity. The rivers always give back what winter buries. August 2008. The Hensley brothers surface in the Skagit River. A fisherman catches something on his line. Not a fish. Wayne Hensley, caught in a tree root 3 feet underwater. Search teams find Curtis 3 miles downstream 2 days later. The current carried them for 6 years before deciding to stop. January 2011. Robert Chen, a construction crew clearing land for development in concrete, discovers remains wrapped in a tarp that's almost completely decomposed. His wife identifies him by his wedding ring, the one engraved with their anniversary date, June 14th, 1987. July 2015. Derek Finn. A wildfire burns through the Baker Lake area. When firefighters contain it, they find what 13 years of forest growth had hidden. The fire took the trees, left the truth. 5 bodies recovered, 7 still missing. Rangers cross-reference the remains with the Vane crew list. James Keller, Michael Torres, Ryan Voss, David Murphy, Christopher Lane, Stephen Walsh, Patrick Donovan. 7 men, 7 families waiting. 7 burial sites that only the Sterlings know. Every few years, someone finds something. A boot, a fragment of bone, fabric that used to be clothing. The mountains are patient. They keep what they're given until they decide to return it. But some secrets, they keep forever. November 14th, 2019. Washington State Penitentiary. Silas Sterling wakes at 5:15 a.m. No alarm, just the internal clock that 40 years of farming installed in him. The one that doesn't care that he's 75 years old. that he's been in prison for 17 years, that his back hurts before his feet hit the floor. The cell is cold, 10 by 12 feet. A cot, a toilet, a sink, a small desk where he keeps one photograph. Martha, taken in 1985. Her hair dark, her smile genuine. Before the heart attack, before the phone, before everything. On the back, in pencil, phone was always on. He wrote that 3 years ago, during a moment of clarity when he understood what the vow cost, what the ritual destroyed. He kept his phone on for her, and lost everything for them. The pain starts at 11:47 a.m. Not sharp, just pressure. In his chest, radiating down his left arm. He knows what this is immediately. He felt it before. When Martha called him that night in 2000, when she described this exact sensation and he told her to drive to the hospital, not knowing his phone was dead, not knowing she couldn't reach him. She died of this pain. He sits down at the library desk where he works, breathing carefully. The pressure building like a vice closing around his ribs. A guard notices. "Sterling, you okay?" I think," his voice catches. "I think I'm having a heart attack." The response is immediate. Guards, medics, a gurney. They rush him to the prison medical unit, start an IV, monitor his vitals, call for an ambulance to transfer him to a real hospital. But Silas knows he's not making it to a hospital. The same way Martha didn't make it. A chaplain arrives. Young woman, maybe 30. She sits next to his gurney. "Is there anyone you want us to call?" "My sons. We'll notify them." "No, I mean, can I call them? Can I talk to them?" She understands. Her face softens. "I'll see what I can do." 20 minutes later, she returns with a phone. A modern smartphone. Not a Motorola. Not the kind that pings towers and maps your life in data points. She dials Elias first. Airway Heights Correctional Facility. They patch the call through to his cell. 3 rings. Then, pop. Elias's voice. Older, tired, but still his son. "Elias, The pain spikes. He can't breathe for a moment. The monitor's beeping faster. "I'm dying." Silence on the line. The kind of silence that contains everything unsaid over 17 years. "I wanted to tell you I'm sorry. For all of it. For the truck. For making you do what we did. For dragging you into something that destroyed your lives." "Pop, don't. Let me finish. Please. I kept the phone on for your mother. I thought it was honoring her. I thought staying connected mattered. But I should have been connected to you. To Caleb. To Bram. I should have turned it off the night she died and moved on. Instead, I dragged you into something that destroyed us all. We made our choices, Pop. You made the choice to follow me." The pain is constant now. The pressure unbearable. The monitors screaming. Medical staff moving with urgency that Silas recognizes as desperation. "I love you," Silas says, his voice barely a whisper. "Tell your brothers I love them. Tell them I'm sorry I couldn't." His voice fails. The pain wins. Pop, pop, but Silas can't respond. He thinks about Martha, about the phone that was supposed to keep him connected to her, about how it connected him to the law instead. Full circle. The irony, complete. The monitors, the alarm, the medical staff calling code blue. Elias on the phone, listening to his father die through a speaker. The way Silas listened to silence when Martha tried to reach him. "Pop, Pop." The chaplain gently takes the phone. "I'm so sorry. He's gone." Silas Sterling dies at 12:34 p.m. on November 14th, 2019. 17 years into a life sentence, 75 years old, alone in a prison medical unit, except for a chaplain he doesn't know and a son on the phone who couldn't save him. The photograph of Martha is still in his cell. On the back, in pencil, phone was always on. The guards find it when they clean out his belongings. They send it to Elias, along with a few other possessions. A watch that stopped working in 2011, a Bible from the chaplain's office, 3 letters from Caleb that Silas never answered. Elias keeps the photograph, but he doesn't look at it. Because every time he thinks about that photograph, he thinks about the phone that destroyed them, and the love that powered it, and the towers that recorded everything. The years after 2023, Caleb Sterling is released after 20 years. He's 54. He moves to Portland, changes his name, tries to disappear into a city that doesn't know who he is. He never visits Elias, never writes, just vanishes. 2023, Bram Sterling is released 2 months later. He's 48. He moves to Oregon, sends Caleb one text message, starting over. Don't contact me, please. Caleb respects the boundary, understands that some people survive prison by cutting all ties to what put them there. They never speak again. 2026, Elias Sterling is denied parole. The board cites the severity of the crimes and lack of demonstrated remorse. He'll be eligible again in 2031. By then, he'll be 59, the same age his father was when the killing started. July 2031, Elias Sterling dies in prison, age 59. Medical complications from the shoulder wound that never fully healed. The infection that should have killed him at the ranger station in 2002 finally finishes the job 29 years later. Caleb and Bram are notified. Neither attends the funeral. A chaplain buries him in the prison cemetery. Plot 247. A stone with his name and 2 dates. No mention of what he did. Just Elias Sterling, 1971 to 2031. The Sterling family is gone now. Silas, Elias, dead and buried. Caleb and Bram, alive but disappeared. Erased themselves from the world that knew them. The mountains remember, but the mountains keep giving back. 2018, a trail crew finds bone fragments near Rockport. DNA confirms. Michael Torres, Vane crew, missing since November 2002. 2027, a landslide exposes remains in a ravine near Concrete. James Keller, The Courier, buried for 25 years before erosion decided to reveal him. 2035, hikers report human remains near Highway 20. Ryan Voss, one of Victor's drivers. The forest kept him for 33 years. 2042, a wildfire burns through the Cascades. When the smoke clears, rangers find Christopher Lane in what used to be dense undergrowth. Fire took the trees, left the truth. 9 bodies recovered over 40 years. 3 still missing: David Murphy, Stephen Walsh, Patrick Donovan. 3 men whose families spent decades searching. 3 burial sites that only Caleb and Bram know, and they're not talking. 2042, 40 years after the murders, a documentary filmmaker interviews Detective Sarah Reeves. She's 70 now, retired, living in Bellingham. The camera rolls. Detective Reeves, do you think they'd do it differently now? The Sterlings, knowing what we know about cell phones, about surveillance? Reeves considers this. Her face lined with 40 years of cases, of digital forensics, of watching technology change how crimes are solved and how criminals are caught. People always think they'd be smarter, that if they knew about the technology, they'd find a way around it. But the Sterlings weren't caught because they were stupid. They were caught because they were human. Silas kept his phone on out of love. That's not stupidity. That's grief. And you can't outsmart grief. You can only live with it, or let it destroy you. Did it destroy them? Reeves looks directly at the camera. The murders destroyed them. The phone just documented it. She pauses. Silas Sterling died in prison holding a phone, apologizing to his son, trying to stay connected. The same way he tried to stay connected to his wife. The same thing that destroyed him was the thing he couldn't let go of. That's not a technology problem. That's a human problem. We all keep things that destroy us. We just don't all commit 12 murders because of it. Do you think about them? The Sterlings? Every time I teach a class on digital forensics, every time I pull cell tower records for a case, the Sterling handshake changed how we investigate crimes, how we understand surveillance, how we think about the devices we carry. But what I think about most is the price. 12 men dead, 4 men in prison, a family destroyed, all because one man couldn't let go of a truck. And a phone that was supposed to honor love became the thing that ended everything. The interview ends. The documentary airs. A few 100,000 people watch it, learn about cell towers and constellations, and the night a logger's grief turned into 9 days of murder. Then everyone moves on. But the mountains don't move on. The mountains keep their secrets. Present day, Skagit County, Washington. Every few years, hikers find something. A boot weathered by decades of rain. A fragment of bone that DNA testing confirms belongs to someone from the Vane crew list. Rangers have a system now, a protocol. When remains are discovered in Skagit or Whatcom counties, they cross-reference with the Sterling case files. 3 names still waiting. David Murphy, Stephen Walsh, Patrick Donovan. Men who disappeared in November 2002. Men whose families spent years, then decades searching. Men whose remains are still out there, buried in places only 2 people know. Caleb Sterling, age 74, lives somewhere in the Pacific Northwest under a different name. He could tell the families where the bodies are. He chooses not to. Bram Sterling, age 70, same choice, same silence. When journalists track them down, and they do every few years when a new body is found, both men say the same thing. I have nothing to say. No apology, no confession, no mercy for the families still waiting. Just silence. Because the only thing worse than carrying 12 murders for 40 years is admitting where the last 3 bodies are buried. Admission means facing the families, means seeing what they took, means confronting the weight they've been carrying since 2002. Silence is easier. Silence is all they have left. The final truth. Martha Sterling died in 2000 with an uncharged phone, trying to reach a husband who wasn't reachable. Silas Sterling died in 2019 with a charged phone in his hand, trying to reach sons who couldn't save him. Elias Sterling died in 2031 from a wound that never healed, carried an infection for 29 years before it finally killed him. Caleb and Bram Sterling are still alive, still free, still carrying 12 murders and the locations of 3 bodies the mountains haven't given back. The towers are everywhere now, more than in 2002, covering every ridge, every valley, every place the Sterlings thought was hidden. Smartphones, smartwatches, fitness trackers, security cameras, license plate readers, facial recognition. The technology that caught the Sterlings is primitive compared to what exists now. The Sterling handshake was just the beginning. Now everyone is mapped, everyone tracked, everyone's movements recorded in constellations they'll never see. Your phone knows where you've been, where you are, where you're going. It creates a record every 7 to 15 minutes, just like Silas's Motorola did in 2002. The difference is, you know about it now, and you carry it anyway, because staying connected matters more than staying invisible. The Sterlings learned that the hard way. 12 men dead, 4 men in prison, a family destroyed. All because invisibility requires more than silence. It requires understanding the invisible world around you. The world of radio waves and cell towers and digital handshakes that happen whether you want them to or not. The mountains keep the bodies. The towers keep the truth. And the lesson? You can't outsmart grief. You can only live with it or let it destroy you. The Sterlings chose destruction. The towers documented everything. And the mountains remember.